To our fans and listeners, please be aware that this podcast episode contains sequences which include self-harm, eating disorders, and suicidal ideation. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Battalion 13 the Podcast, Episode 7. Madelyn of Terra 1 rolled out of bed and into her Yoda slippers. The house was quiet without Darian. Mom and Dad must still be in bed. Maddie grabbed an Anne Rice novel from her desk and set downstairs to go find some breakfast.
No more raisin nut You really are an unworthy vessel for life.
As the eerie words left Madelyn's lips, she let go of the cereal box in her hand and it crashed onto the well-worn oak floor. She grabbed the counter and paused as she knew that the words that left her mouth were not her own. Even as she did so, a wave of vertigo, then anxiety, mixed with a discomfort and nausea gripped her quickly.
Stop. Begin preparations for reparations. You have made the people in your life miserable, and now it's time to make it up to them. You have brought a curse upon the whole world. That's impossible. I do good things. What good things? Fighting at school? Lying to your parents about where you were going? Every teen does that. I'm just rebelling against the man. Your parents made the world a better place with their inventions. What would you ever have to contribute? But it's too late now. You've lost your drive to learn. You're not going to graduate valedictorian or get accepted into a good college. Maybe you're right. Lately I've been awful. I don't even feel like I exist in this reality anymore. It's almost like I'm a shadow of myself and the real me is actually somewhere else, doing something to make a difference. I really don't matter. You know, if you weren't here, it would be so much better for everyone. Maybe there's a way around all this sadness. Death is pain release.
Madelyn's attention was drawn back to her bedroom. She drifted down the long hallway to her room and sat at her desk. As if she was drained of all energy, she stared into the mirror above the desk as a single tear fell and landed on her diary. Madelyn of Terra 1 opened her diary to a clean page and wrote,
November 4th, 1995. Lately, I haven't been the person I was meant to be. I've betrayed you all. I'm just a shadow of a daughter. Nothing feels real anymore.
Inside the Renegade base, Nightmare called for his two commanders, Destroyer and Dominator. News had already reached Nightmare of their failure infiltrating the Academy. Therefore, he called them to dinner together to hear their explanation and excuses as to why. Nightmare sat at the head of an extravagantly long table, opposite the room's entrance. Before him sat silver platters laden with decadent meats, fruits, and breads. Before him and to either side of him were 8 dinner placings for people to eat. The room was well lit, with elaborate electrical lamps that looked fairly expensive. The room was also very well decorated, with its vaulted ceilings and gray marble pillars, with arches in between them. Mirrors also lined the walls. The room felt more spacious than it really was. Destroyer sat to the left of Nightmare, looking rather dejected, while Dominator sat to the right, appearing defensive.
So tell me, you both headed the attack on the Academy. How did it go?
Well, it went pretty well. We managed to get onto the grounds and...
Oh, cut the shit. We failed. We took their shield down, but someone messed up in the process.
Hey, their technology is more complex than anyone might think, okay? No one could have suspected that the shield was tied into the lights.
You alerted them to our presence. They were perfectly unaware until the lights began flickering.
As if you would have fared any better in my position. How was I supposed to know that all the power to the school had been connected to the same box as the shield? I didn't have a chance to study their entire security system before we began, so don't blame this all on me. In any case, your Red Beetles should have been better prepared for the students to fight back.
So it's my fault? They took out a large portion of my army because you readied them and let them know we were coming. And they were ready. Had you not, I'd still have most of my Red Beetles left. If you weren't so useless, I'd...
Useless? I'm not the one in charge of obliterating all life in that academy. What were your soldiers doing instead of training? Playing games at a teddy bear festival?
Don't you drag that into this. This has nothing to do with...
Enough! I already knew you two were failures. Both of you are at fault. If you hadn't fucked up, we wouldn't have a problem, now would we? They've now been alerted to our presence, and who knows what else. If I had no further use for either of you, I'd erase you from existence this instant. The next time I have a mission for either of you, I expect you to prepare better, you lazy scum. Now get out of my sight before I change my mind about sparing your pathetic, worthless, inconsequential lives.
Destroyer fell out of his chair in fear and scrambled out of the room as fast as he could to avoid Nightmare's wrath. Dominator stood up abruptly and huffily left the room. Nightmare slumped backwards into his chair and placed his thumb and middle finger on his temples. Stressed, enraged, and disappointed that his attempt failed and that his commanding officers were complete ignoramuses. At least the homing beacon was in place. Now he would be able to locate the academy no matter what dimension it shifted to. He began to decompress and try to calm down, when a loud, energetic knock came at the door.
What is it now?
Hello, old friend. I come to give report on new younglings. I see you are troubled. Is it bad time? I come some other time.
No. I guess I need to hear even more bad news today.
Nightmare removed his hand from his face, looking Emerson in the eyes as he spoke. He tried to regain some level of composure and calm in his voice.
Anyway, sit down and have a drink, my old friend. Tell me, how are the new vampires doing?
Emerson sat down at the far end of the table and clapped his hands. A side door opened and closed, and a young woman approached him quickly. She knelt at his side and offered her hand, which Emerson took and bit into her wrist. He then began periodically sipping from her while he spoke.
Many doing well, though others experiencing a rough start. Some are very obstinate in manner which they deal with training, acting like rogue youths. I will deal with them accordingly and show no mercy as usual. Always have few testy ones in each batch, but I set straight nonetheless. James, however, that one is special. He defended himself well against the entrance test I provided. In fact, he managed to pin me and rough me up a bit. He is excelling to the point I have never seen before. He is prodigy. James could even...
Wait. Why call him James if he's earning your high praises? Anyone who's excelling at being a soldier in our army should be respected enough to be reborn into a new visage and title. Don't you agree?
Yes, absolutely. But what should it be changed to? Spike? No, that sounds like dog. Fang? No, that sounds racist.
How about Mordred?
Yes, I like. You are very brilliant, my friend. Absolute genius.
Report the change to him as soon as possible. We wouldn't want our new soldier to feel burdened and weighed down by his previous life.
Absolutely not. I will do as soon as possible. For now, I would like to finish my drink and head back.
Of course.
Nightmare and Emerson spent a few hours bantering, talking about the other younglings, and enjoying a meal. After Emerson left, Nightmare still felt the disappointment of his miserable commander's failure. But his anger was quelled with the joy he felt knowing he would be able to replace one of them if the need arose. Jake and Maddie sprinted down a wide, crumbling street. The buildings surrounding them amounted to little more than ruins of a city that once was. The portal from which the beast had emerged came without warning, and the speed with which the creature could soar through the air was terrifying. Maddie turned her head slightly to look back, and the winged monstrosity was nearly upon them, jaws gaping wide. As she met its eyes, it emitted a screech, and its foul breath filled the air.
Get down!
She dove down toward the hard roadway as the creature passed above her. Jake followed suit a moment too late, and the talon of the beast grabbed hold of him around his waist as he dove through the air.
Oh! Maddie!
He pulled out the crossbow and worked to load a bolt as the beast jerked him roughly through the air. Maddie was getting back to her feet, looking all around her and trying to figure out a plan. Her eyes scanned the terrain in search of a weapon or a place to take cover if need be. The beast whipped around and began to dive straight for her. She caught sight of it and began running away. Just as it was about to grab for her, Jake shot the bolt into its underside. It penetrated the flesh and the creature veered up, lifting back up into the air and soaring above Maddie. Though it had served to distract the beast, Jake knew he could do no real harm to it from his position. It would make another attempt to get Maddie. Thinking quickly, he made a decision.
Maddie, take this! Aim for its face!
He tossed the crossbow down, along with a case or quiver full of bolts. She quickly snatched them from the ground where they landed and made her way toward the closest remains of a building. Only the bottom few floors remained intact. She knelt behind some rubble in the street nearby the building and loaded the crossbow, turning quickly to aim at the rapidly approaching creature. The entrance to the building, and therefore safety, wasn't far away. Hopefully she could make it in time. As the beast barreled straight toward her, she held the crossbow steady, taking careful aim. It was already so close. Had she waited too long?
Now or never.
She let the bolt fly as the creature careened relentlessly toward her. The bolt tore through the air and met directly with one of the beast's fiery orange eyes. It screeched again, and an orange aura seemed to leak from the wound. Maddie leapt to the side as the creature reeled from the pain, its body jerking violently to the left as it made its way around the building. Madelyn quickly ran inside and ran to the opposite doorway to locate the creature again. She quickly caught sight of it, letting loose another bolt after it. The creature looked weary and seemed to struggle to stay airborne. But just as the bolt was about to hit, a portal opened up around the beast, and then closed, leaving the sky empty.
Shit!
She sat down to examine the scrapes and bruises she'd incurred during the chase. After ensuring she had no serious wounds, she drank from the bottle in her pack. What happened began to sink in.
Alone again. Where did it take you, Jake? And what the hell was it?
With no idea how to pursue it, Maddie began to press down on the road, limping a bit on her left leg as she walked. It hurt to put weight on it. She hadn't noticed before. That wasn't good.
It's not like I need ballerina legs in this life.
She walked on it anyway, until she was too tired to keep moving. It felt like it had been hours, but it was hard to keep track of time when the sky seemed permanently black. She saw the remains of a small house that looked like as suitable a shelter as any she'd be likely to find. At least part of the roof was intact to keep her dry should rain come. Then, as she laid out her sleeping bag, she saw the flash of light that they had seen before. She turned and saw in the distance that same orange glow that they had seen before, but this time one of the orange dots appeared to be leaking, streaming wisps of orange light out behind it as it moved.
Oh no, it came back.
Darian and Kristen had just arrived at the library. They had plans to study for their interdimensional law exam, but Darian was visibly distressed. Ethan and Eric were already there.
Hey, you look really stressed, man. What's wrong?
Chad and Jesse entered the scene and sat down with their tablets. I had another dream about Maddie last night. I think she's all alone now. Jake was captured by some sort of dragon or something. I wish I knew how to help her.
Maybe I could help with my empathic abilities. If I'm close enough to you the next time you have the dream, Maybe I could feel what's going on and give you a clearer perspective on it.
I don't know. That may be helpful. But I think I'm supposed to find her.
Well, I'm here for moral support if you need it.
Thanks. I just wish there was a solution.
Maybe I can help.
How?
Well, last night, I was with Cynthia and we were dreamwalking. I had full control over the dream. Maybe if you call me into your dream, I can help in some way.
I don't know if they're exactly dreams. They feel more like visions. I think there's a real person in danger here. I'm really freaked out. I wish it had just been a dream.
Still, I think that I can be of use here.
How? Cynthia walked into the room. Her hair was still wet from the shower.
Hey guys, what's everyone talking about?
Darian's still having nightmares about another version of his younger sister, Maddie. I told him a little about our experience last night. Figured maybe I could help.
Did you tell him about the purple hotel room?
No, I figured the exact details of our experience were private.
Oh, please. Darian Chad was able to conjure items in the dream. Like anything. He was able to change our environment. He had total control. If anyone can help you with a dream, it's Chad.
Okay, but how is conjuring items and changing venues going to help us track down this Maddie from another Earth? She's left Terra too and went someplace else. She's all alone now. Like I said, I'm not sure this is exactly a dream that you can control. This whole thing has me so distraught.
Only one way to find out.
I'll try anything. I definitely need help.
Good, then it's settled. Next time you have one of these dreams, you call me in, let me do my magic.
Darian was still a bit uneasy, but accepted that he had help if he asked for it.
Maybe you should go talk to Sam. She said she wanted to know the moment you had another dream about Maddie.
You're right. I should ask her about it. With Sam and Chad, maybe we can actually do something about this.
Sure thing.
Darian and Chad made a plan to go see Samantha after dinner that night. Several bell chimes marked Nightmare's entrance into Dr. Bora's Ale Emporium. He'd never stepped foot into a demon bar before, but since acquiring the Renegades, the idea wasn't unappealing, and he rather enjoyed the vigorous beating of his heart, warning him of possible danger. These beings would now serve as allies. They were figures he had rallied in a campaign to protect. And now, equal rights for demons was his mission, and he needed more bodies to help in his cause. A gentleman with maroon skin and a tall Pilates body smiled at him with his ebony goatee, so Nightmare approached him.
Hello there, stranger. Can I join you for a drink? I'm new to Baltic City, and you seem friendly enough.
Yes, of course. I'm just relaxing with my team. We've just been liberated by the warrior, Dominator. I'm Red Beetle 1, leader of the Red Beetles.
Liberated? You were enslaved? Oh, and I'm Nightmare. A pleasure to meet you, Red Beetle 1. It sounds like you've been through quite the ordeal.
Oh yes, my people were slaves. Just because we're strong does not mean we should have been treated like livestock. Most of my family died from the labor conditions.
Sorry to hear that. Your people deserve better. My friend, I'd like to help you, your team and your liberator, Dominator. You see, I'm on a quest to find allies in support of my mission for demon rights. I need scions, people with powers to assist me and my team. The Renegades, to fight those who want to hurt demons who simply want to live their lives in peace.
Then you've come to the right place. One of the regulars here is an elusive man with the power to block out the sun. If we leave a message with the bartender and hang out a bit, I'm sure he'll show.
Well then, I shall go get us some drinks and talk to the bartender.
Nightmare came back to the table with several trays of bubbling hot gaggle cider for his new demon friends and a whiskey neat for himself. After an hour or so of battle stories, a greasy ogre-looking man with a scraggly and unkempt beard came in. He had a chalkboard around his neck and a trench coat that looked like it used to be tan.
That's him. That's the man they call Dark Cloud.
Thanks, RB1. I'll go ask him to join us.
The bartender pointed Dark Cloud over to the table where Nightmare and Red Beetle 1 were sitting. He sent over fresh drinks and some snacks for the table as well. Nightmare and Darkcloud met in the middle. Darkcloud picked up the chalkboard that lay on his rotund stomach and wrote, "Hello. You were looking for me?"
Hello, and welcome to our table. Red Beetle 1 has told me so much about you. All good things. Thank you so much for meeting us. You see, I've recently acquired the Renegades, and in doing so I've given them a new mission. The pursuit of equal rights for demonic life forms. My new friend RB1 and I think you may be a welcome ally to our cause.
Darkcloud erased the chalkboard. Dust gathered all over his clothing, and some fell onto the floor, but he didn't bother to wipe it away. He simply wrote, "Tell me more."
Great. So I'm looking for scions, powered people to help liberate demons from slavery. We will also gather resources from various dimensions to aid us on our journey. RB1 said you may have technology that could help us.
Darkcloud wrote, "I block out the sun. What can you do for me?"
Well, that is a very useful ability. I have an ability too. I can teach you how to control your dreams. I bet in your dreams you can talk.
Darkcloud once again erased the chalkboard, and dust went everywhere, causing many to sneeze. He then wrote, "I want to control my dreams. I talk there."
I have an idea, Nightmare. What if you take Darkcloud and I into your dreamscape so Darkcloud can speak to us aloud rather than scrawl on a chalkboard?
Red Beetle 1, I like you already.
Nightmare held out his hands so that Red Beetle 1 and Darkcloud could join Nightmare in the dreamscape he was creating for them in the bar. Inside the dreamscape, Darkcloud was able to negotiate his terms. He wanted to learn this dreamscape ability so that he could communicate better. The terms were settled. Darkcloud would now be an ally to the Renegades, but Darkcloud would not simply give this power to Nightmare. Darkcloud explained that he was part of the technology, that his psionic powers fed the technology. Whenever Nightmare needed Darkcloud to block out the sun, Nightmare would need to make arrangements and pay on a case-by-case basis. In addition, Nightmare would need to continue to give Darkcloud lessons on dreamwalking. Darkcloud's price was very high, but Nightmare felt that this alliance was integral to his plans. Darkcloud departed as soon as the terms were settled.
It looks like the Renegades are going to be a powerful team.
I couldn't have done it without you. Your loyalty will be greatly rewarded, Red Beetle 1.
January 7th, 1993. United Alliance of Dimensions News Bulletin. All associates be vigilant. The renegade threat level has now been increased from moderate to major. Several cities in multiple dimensions have been attacked in the past few days, with a new technology that wipes out the rays of the sun. This technology allows demons and vampires to feast and attack at any time, day or night. We do not know when or where the renegades will strike next. All battalions are on alert. End communication.
Even though Madelyn was still hungry for breakfast, she was drawn to the Nutcracker playbill tucked in the corner of her mirror. It was a reminder of the ballerina legs she dreamed of having since that day, and a warning that if she kept eating, she would never achieve that dream. Her mind drifted back to the aftermath of that trip to the ballet.
But you're starving yourself, Maddie. The school just called and told me you fainted in PE. Why are you doing this?
You don't understand. I'm too fat. I'm a gordo. My legs are too thick. No matter how much I exercise, I can't get ballerina legs.
You're trying to get ballerina legs? Maddie, those girls are born that way. Everyone has their own body type. Starving yourself won't give you the body you want. It will simply make your heart stop. Do you want to die?
I want to be skinny. I want to be an elegant, willowy twig.
Madelyn grinned.
I'm not playing around, Maddie. Start eating or I'm checking you into an eating disorder clinic.
Madelyn drifted back into her current reality and stared down at her muscular legs. She slumped with disappointment.
See, you never achieved your goal. I didn't die either. And you're really fat now. I don't wear plus size. You don't wear juniors either. Maybe I have put on a little weight, Okay. I won't eat, just for today. That should help.
Terra 1 Madelyn opened her diary once again and wrote,
Tomorrow I will be thinner. Just for one day I will be good and skip all my meals. Maybe that can be my sacrifice to my family. I will look beautiful for all of you.
Madelyn took a picture of her legs from a visit to the beach, used a black marker, and wrote on the photo, I'll never be thin enough. She put the Nutcracker playbill and the picture in her diary. It was the early 1970s, and for Andrea Kane this was the first Sunday afternoon she'd had to herself since her recent marriage to Eugene. He'd gone over to his friend's motorcycle workshop to try out some new fuel injection formulas he'd created in his lab this week. On the quaint balcony of their condo, she had created quite a collection of herbs and nightshade plants, lavender and mint for teas, and habaneros and cilantro for Eugene's chilies. The lull of the quiet afternoon soon took her into a meditative trance. She found herself searching through her Akashic records. The Akashic records didn't appear to her as a book or scroll. That was only possible at the Academy. Instead, spectral visions filled her mind, and she was able to interpret their symbols and messages with clarity and purpose by utilizing the skills and knowledge she had gained during her training there. As she saw the images in her mind, she began speaking the interpretations aloud and began writing the messages in a diary she kept with her at all times.
6 eggs will be given to her by a wizard with a blue hat, but one will break before she can bring it home. All of the eggs will be in pairs and will be connected through yin and yang energies to bring balance to the Kane family.
Andrea paused for a moment. She knew there was more. The message was blocked. Then, just as fast as it had stopped, the message continued again.
One will find a new egg. If the egg is broken, it will cause this egg to rot and attack the other eggs. But there is hope. The egg with no twin will find a true mate and be a leader among its peers. Only then will the pain of the Kane family past be broken, and in this the Akashic records can heal.
Andrea knew that working the Akashic records was a personal journey, but this time it involved her family. She would share this with Eugene and try to discover what the eggs were and how they could heal their family's records. Once she returned from the trance, she quickly made some piping hot coffee and ate her favorite lunch, a steak and blue cheese salad. This would ensure that she was fully grounded in Terra 1. Kristen was sitting at her lunch table eating when she got a strange feeling. Darian had been having dreams about a Madelyn from another Earth, but very little thought had gone into what his actual sister, the Madelyn of their Earth, had been doing. They had gotten a letter from her stating that she was fine, but that didn't feel like the truth. Kristen suddenly recalled that about a week prior to them leaving for the Academy, she had a troubling interaction with Madelyn. Kristen was in her room packing for the Academy when there was a knock on the already opened door. It was Madelyn. She had kind of a sad look on her face.
Hey, Maddie. Come on in.
Hey, Chris. This kind of sucks. I finally have a sister and you're leaving in a couple of days for God knows how long. I'm really going to miss you.
Oh, I'm going to miss you too.
There's just one thing I wanted to ask you.
What's that?
I was wondering if I could borrow your leather jacket while you're gone.
You can borrow whatever you want, as long as you promise me you're going to eat and not restrict yourself.
Madelyn was thrown by this.
Oh, come on. I haven't skipped a meal in I don't know how long.
That's not entirely true, and you know it.
What do you mean?
Just the other night, you skipped dinner. Don't try to deny it.
Well, see, I
don't mind you borrowing my clothes, but I need you to promise you won't skip any more meals. You need to keep your strength up. I don't want to come home to a sick sister.
How am I ever going to be as beautiful as you if I keep eating these fattening meals?
You are already at least as beautiful as me, if not more beautiful. The only thing that makes you unattractive is this anorexia of yours. I don't want to hear about you fainting again from lack of food.
I promise I will eat enough to survive.
Not good enough.
Madelyn frowned at Kristen.
You need to eat enough to thrive. If you're worried about being healthy, don't restrict your food. Add in some exercise. Start jogging, or use Darian's workout equipment in the basement.
Okay, I promise I won't restrict myself.
Good. Then you can borrow whatever you want.
Kristen was not convinced by Madelyn's promise, but had decided at that point to give her the benefit of the doubt. Back in the present, Kristen thought about Maddie's new style and realized that a lot of girls in troubled situations had anorexic behaviors. She worried about Maddie. She wondered if Maddie had kept her promise, or if she was restricting again. She wished that she could check on her, but under the circumstances, it was impossible. Dominator stood amidst the wasteland, staring at the horizon. She thought back to what happened with Lexi before the attack on the Academy. Lexi took Dominator into the nap zone. Dominator felt the cool touch of darkness overtake her mind as she drifted away from reality, and then the cool blanket turned to a frozen wasteland. She opened her mental eye to find a misty area before her. Amongst the mist, she found a chained-up Lexi, bound to a stake in the ground, unable to move. She rested on her knees, her legs wrapped around the stake and her arms tied to her ankles. Dominator found a dark figure looming over her, whispering inaudible things to Lexi. She looked traumatized. Getting closer, Dominator could see images forming in the mist around Lexi. One was of a large woman being taken into a back room by a tall shadow with a malicious smile.
Mom, don't go. Don't leave me with Grandpa. Please.
The tall woman did not turn back. She just smiled sadly at Lexi. A tall man, slightly hunched in stature, approached Lexi. He was a dark shadow with a malicious smile painted on his face. He stared down at Lexi, and she tried to look away. The man behind her grabbed her head and forcefully jerked it up to face this man, and slammed her head against the stake to force her eyes open. She looked at the man's shadow, and it seemed to say something to her.
Grandpa, no. Why? Why? What did I do?
Another figure walked out of the shadows. This shadow's form was constantly shifting how it appeared. Tall to short, thin to fat, stocky to skeletal, young to old. Many variations of it formed, and yet the only consistency of this warped figure was its gender, male. Many smiles coated this thing's body, but the large, gaping, morbid smile in its face had smoke trailing out from it, which dissolved into the air.
Mommy! Help me! Grandpa's being mean to me again! Mommy!
But nobody came. Dominator stepped closer, confused, and as she approached the man behind Lexi, turned and looked up at her. Then he smiled. As she saw his eyes, she recalled that glimmer of menacing joy, of sadistic glee, of taunting despicability. Dominator immediately recognized this evil being, and red filled her vision.
You...
She remembered Adelaide. She remembered her baby girl. How she laughed. How she cutely stumbled around and babbled to herself with her teddy bear. She remembered her smile, her first word, her pride, her love. She then remembered how it was all suddenly taken from her. She remembered her grief, her anguish, her hatred. All the pain she's been through for years since her daughter was taken from her. Her body shook with rage, her eyes filled with tears, her teeth were bared, and her fists were clenched so tight she could feel her nails piercing her palms and blood dripping down her fingers. She noted that this man tried to speak to her, but she could not hear him, as her anger was blinding and deafening. Reading his lips, she saw him say, "I know you." She charged at him, fist raised, using all of her might, but the man disappeared. She stumbled past Lexi and turned around to find him gone. She roared with pain and anguish. Then she saw Lexi. The large, amorphous figure now no longer had a smoke trail floating up from its mouth, and in its smile was a shadow of a foot, specifically the toes. Dominator, fed up with this world, grabbed Lexi and tried to free her. Upon touching Lexi, however, Dominator got a glimpse of what Lexi was seeing. Dominator saw how this creepy, middle-aged, disgusting man was sucking on her toes, which were dotted with small, round scars. Cigarette butts dotted the floor. An elderly man stood in a doorway, not turning back. Lexi called out to him.
Grandpa? Please, stop this. Please help me. I don't like this.
The old man had a callous look in his eyes. He said nothing, and without turning back, and without a care, he shut the door. All at once Lexi's senses seemed to become overwhelmed. Her nose was filled with the scent of dead fish, semen, and cigarettes from the man's body. Her ears filled with sucking and popping noises from the man's lips. Lexi's eyes were blurred with tears, yet the images of a man gripping her leg when she was a child and suckling at her toes were so vividly placed in her mind already that she didn't need her eyes to see what was happening to her. She couldn't seem to physically resist, but her body and her mind were repulsed. Dominator ripped herself away from Lexi, horrified. She frantically scrambled to her feet and began quickly freeing Lexi as the shadow began looming over her body, seemingly pinning her down. Lexi, fully crying and screaming, was now free to look away. And yet she didn't. As soon as Dominator freed Lexi, she grabbed her arm and tore her away from the scene, running from the shadows. They dissipated quickly, and as Lexi and Dominator ran, they heard men's voices in the space around them as the mist turned to darkness.
Slut.
Whore.
Bitch. I just want to eat you up.
You taste so good.
So deliciously young.
Dominator felt the bile in her stomach begin to churn, and then she awoke. After Dominator awoke, she lurched forward, panting and sweating. Then she overturned on her bed and began vomiting violently. Destroyer looked at her with confusion.
What happened?
I'm thoroughly disturbed. You have to send me back. I need to kill that fucker.
No, I can't send you back. You just got sick all...
Send me back!
Dominator glared at Destroyer, enraged. He looked taken aback for a moment before beginning to focus, and then looked taken aback once more.
I can't find it.
What?
Dominator, I can't find it. It seems to be gone now. Whoever was in there must have sealed it shut.
Really? I doubt that.
It's true. If I look harder...
He paused and focused once more, and then looked at her again after a moment.
The same location I just sent you to appears to look like a castle gate. A large bar blocks the door shut, and an infinite wall extends to either side and into the sky. And I doubt you can go under. Whatever that person is, he's obviously not willing to let us back in. Lexi seems to be a bit more coherent now, by the way, but she's not all there.
What's that supposed to mean?
Go talk to her. You will see.
Dominator moved to Lexi.
Hello again, Dominator. I should thank...
I didn't save you for your sake. Don't even think that. What the hell was that in there?
I told you. Mummy always lets the bad men in.
Instead of talking like her usual self, she seemed more dead and zombified. Her eyes were lifeless, and she didn't look up to meet Dominators.
Whatever. Destroyer, she's not all right. Take her to the doctor. Keep with the vampires. This...
She gestured to Lexi.
This is awful.
Yes, Dominator.
He approached Lexi, grabbed her by the arm, and dragged her away. Now Dominator stopped thinking about Lexi, and thought back to the man she saw. She took out and stared down at the teddy bear, then gripped it to her heart. She began to cry.
At
Adelaide, I will find you. That man will pay for what he did to you. I will find him and I will crush him. For you. I will find you, baby girl. I would do anything to hear you laugh again. I miss you. Adelaide,
She paused, took a deep breath, then screamed out at the top of her lungs.
Do you hear me, heathen? I will find you and you will pay! For the life of a creature is in the blood, and I have given it to you to make atonement for yourselves on the altar. It is the blood that makes atonement for one's life.
Then she crumpled to the ground and she cried silently, clutching the bear to her breast. Gnawing hunger began beckoning Madelyn to eat. She wanted to follow through with her pledge, but she also wanted to not think about food. She reached for the phone in her room and dialed the one number she knew by heart, Matt's school.
Hi, it's Madelyn Kane. Kind of important. Can I talk to Matthew Kane?
One sec. Looks like he didn't show up for classes today. He's not checked into his dorm either. Would you like to leave a message?
Thanks, yeah. Tell him to call his sister Maddie ASAP. Thanks.
After feeling defeated and weak from not eating, Madelyn decided that she wouldn't be able to go into school today. She needed time to sort out these resurfaced feelings from her disordered eating. While popping her head outside of her bedroom door, she shouted toward her parents' bedroom.
Mom? Dad? I'm not feeling too well. I'm gonna stay home from school today.
Andrea came into Maddie's room and looked her over.
You don't seem sick. Did you drop the cereal in the kitchen?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got dizzy, then came in here to lie down. I'm sorry I didn't clean it up right away. Probably just a headache or something.
All of this was true. She wasn't sure why this felt like a lie. She really wasn't feeling like herself.
Okay, baby. Do you need anything? Do you want me to make you some cream of wheat?
The thought of warm, buttery, sugary, milky cream of wheat made by her mommy sounded amazing, but Madelyn decided to stick to her resolution and not eat.
I'm a bit nauseous right now.
Okay, well, if you need me to come home, just call me at work. You know the number. I love you.
She kissed her on the forehead and updated Eugene on Madelyn's sick day plan. Madelyn slumped back into her bedclothes and fell into a jarring memory. A boy she didn't know grabbed her by the waist one afternoon as she was walking home from school. He pressed her up against some nearby bushes and began to shove his long, greasy tongue down her throat. Madelyn shoved him off of her and began screaming a scream so excruciatingly loud that banshees would be terrified. Darian heard her and pulled the boy off of her. He beat him down and carried Madelyn home. On that day he swore he would be there for Madelyn any time she needed him. He promised that he would protect her always. As Madelyn came out of the memory, she thought about Darian's promise. He was not here now. She was alone.
You know, Matt left you, Darian left you, and your parents left you to go to work. Despite living in a large family and being a twin, they all abandoned you. No one cares about you, Madelyn.
Instead of sinking into her depression further, Madelyn pulled out a piece of paper and began an angry letter to Darian. He would receive a severe tongue lashing for breaking this promise.
You think a letter is going to bring Darian home? Shut up! You stupid little girl. You will see. Well, we'll just have to see about that now, won't we?
It was nice when classes let out for the day, so Max decided to walk around the campus. Darian and Kristen had wanted some alone time, and Chad said he was tired, whatever that meant. He seemed to be tired a lot lately. His hands in his pocket, he walked along at a pace that most people would have called sauntering, but Maddie would have called taking in the beautiful.
Maddie. She's been on my mind a lot lately. I have to write her a letter or something to see how she is.
He sat on the grass and leaned back on his elbows, staring up at the sky. A memory tugged at him, and he smiled.
Oh yeah, that day. I remember it. That was a day like this one. Maybe not so bright. There was something I had wanted to talk to Darian about. I can't remember what it was, though. I remember I walked to the Kane house instead of driving. It was too nice out. I saw the family car was gone when I got there, but decided to knock anyway. When I did, something glass shattered against the door. You have a hell of an arm, Maddie. I was worried, so I turned the doorknob and pushed the door open. I looked around, and there you were, sitting on the floor with your back against the couch, your arms around a shoebox. Your head was over the box, and you were crying. I stepped inside and felt a crunch under my boot. There was glass on the floor, some chunks, and a lot of shards. There was water, too. I sat next to you waiting for you to say something. You might have been waiting for me to say something. I don't know. But we stayed that way for a few minutes, maybe 2, maybe 10. But when you picked your head up and looked at me, your eyes were red from crying, and there were wet streaks on your face. I couldn't help it. I smiled. You were cute. And now you're beautiful.
He sat up and started plucking at the grass.
I looked in the box and tugged it from your arms. You pulled back a bit, but I managed. The hamster was definitely not sleeping.
I killed him. I killed everything. I only had to take care of him for the week, and I killed him.
I recognized the biology pet from when I was in the class 2 years ago. He was old back then, and I mentioned that to you. You shrugged and said he was still your responsibility. You stood and disappeared upstairs for a few minutes. When you came back down, you looked at me more sure of yourself. Your eyes were dry, your hair was brushed. I think I even remembered smelling something like flowers when you came near again. You had a black t-shirt in your hands and you folded it around the body of the hamster. I asked if it was one of Darian's.
He has so many, he'll never notice this one missing.
You smirked and I laughed. You were right. You put the lid on the box and sat it on the floor, then sat on the couch. I joined you.
He's not home. Darian, Mom, and Dad are all at Kristen's soccer game. They left me here, alone, again, this time with a dead hamster.
The hamster probably died from living too close to Darian's socks. I said to you and you smiled. What a smile. Besides, you weren't alone. I was there, right? You smiled again and agreed. It was then that I knew that I loved you. But I only said that I'd always be there for you if you needed me. Just a phone call away. Well, I'll let her know. But I'm still here, Maddie. I'm going to make this right when I get home. I hope you'll take me back. I was stupid and should never have let you go. I won't let you go again.
Oh, that vile man! How could he? My sweet Adelaide.
You mean Dark Cloud might have been the one to hurt Adelaide?
I saw him. I saw his younger self. It was definitely him. And I saw what he did to Lexi. Ugh, it's too gross to describe. I need to...
Dominator lost everything in her stomach again. Then thick tears began to drop from her sassy lashes.
I'm going to kill him. I'm going to murder him myself. We need to tell Nightmare now.
Wait. If we tell Nightmare and he terminates the relationship with Dark Cloud, then we will lose his Dark Cloud technology.
I don't care. It's against our ethical protocol to influence someone in the dreamscape. And he hurt my baby girl.
Okay. Let's just take a breath. Nightmare could get angry if we disturb him with something that will upset his plans. We need to think this through.
But I saw him. I knew him. What he does in there, it's not just mental. It's sexual and violent. I could smell everything. I could taste him. I will make him pay.
Please. I know you are upset, but we need to go into this with a rational head. What if you tell me everything that happened and I explain it to Nightmare? Coming from me, it might be easier to hear, especially since your emotions are so strong right now.
But I experienced it.
Yes. And you can provide additional information as we need it. I just think we need to be cautious, especially after the cadet ball.
That was my debacle. We both messed up.
I know, but you are very emotional right now.
Emotional? You haven't even seen emotional! If Nightmare finds out that we knew about this and we didn't tell him, then we would be in worse trouble.
Look, we are going to tell Nightmare, and we are going to figure this out, okay, babe? I'm with you. Now come here and give me a hug.
Dominator reluctantly moved into Destroyer's arms, where she continued to sob for a while, letting all of her grief about Adelaide flow freely. She felt grateful to be working towards a solution, but wanted to find her daughter as soon as possible. Would Adelaide's mind be altered like Lexi's? Is she even still alive? The two then walked arm in arm towards Nightmare's office, full of purpose in their mission.
Eugene, are you there?
Yes, dear. How can I help?
I'm worried about Maddie. The way she was acting this morning wasn't her usual grumpy goth self. Something else has gotten to her. Maybe a boy?
It's slow here at work. What if I swing by May's and grab her some cream of crab to cheer her up? She'll be back to hating the world in no time.
Would you? Oh, that would be great. I've got 5 more meetings today and I don't want to miss them.
I'm already out the door.
You know I love you, right?
I love you more.
When Eugene burst into the kitchen with the soup, he saw Maddie through the kitchen window, twitching on the back lawn. It was practically winter, and she was wearing a tank top with sleep shorts.
Maddie, what are you doing?
Madelyn gave no sign of recognition of her father's voice.
Madelyn, Josephine, Kane, get your rear inside right now.
Again, there was no movement from Maddie. Eugene took steps 3 paces wide to reach her faster. He began to shake her, but she did nothing more than smile oddly with her mouth open. Eugene picked her up, wrapped her in his navy windbreaker, then brought her back into the house and laid her under her black and white polka dot comforter.
Madelyn, if you don't respond to me, I'm taking you to the doctor.
Go ahead. It's not like you actually care. You're only here because Mom didn't want to come home. I'm a reject. Nobody wants to spend time with me.
Not true. I have a whole afternoon planned for us.
He pulled The Princess Bride out of his inner coat pocket. It was a rental from Blockbuster Video. He then fetched the still-warm soup from the kitchen. It only took Madelyn 1 second to decide what to do. She flipped the bowl and the soup went everywhere. Now she wouldn't be able to eat it. Problem solved.
You don't know who I am anymore.
Eugene pulled the comforter off of her bed, laid her grandmother's Afghan over her, and went to the living room and sat down in his easy chair. All he could do now was put his head in his hands and sigh. Eugene sat in his easy chair, trying to figure out when his little girl had changed so much. Her attitude was darker, meaner, and he didn't like the crowd she was hanging around now. He knew that there were always friends that parents didn't approve of, but this was different. That boy, what's his name? He was dangerous. He'd have to talk to Madelyn about him. That wouldn't go over well. Eugene sighed and leaned back. His eyes were drawn to a picture on the table, one of himself and Madelyn. It was taken 2 years ago, around Christmas, by someone in a curiosities shop. She'd said that the pure joy and innocence in his daughter's smile was something that should never be lost. Madelyn was grinning at their purchase, a sterling silver menorah that had obviously been loved in someone's home. They weren't Jewish themselves, but they had family in California who were, and Madelyn had wanted to include them in their Christmas festivities. The item gleamed. When the Polaroid's flash went off, it startled Maddie, but she just smiled again and laughed. It was a good day for her, for both of them. When did he lose her? Where did he go wrong? Eugene covered his face with his hands and cried. For once in a while, Dominator and Destroyer felt like a strong couple once more, united in their cause for truth. They strode into Nightmare's office.
Good evening, Nightmare. Our apologies for the disturbance. Dominator and I have an urgent matter to discuss with you.
I do hope for your sake that this is truly urgent. I don't like having my time wasted.
Of course, sir. We know that your time is valuable, but please, hear us out.
You see, there is a chance, sir, that the ethical protocol of the Renegades has been broken.
More than a chance.
Please, can you make time for us?
Okay, Destroyer. State your case, but make it fast.
Thank you, sir. Last night, one of the vamp sluts, pretty girl, long blonde hair, young, pagan, quite busty, Lexi, was acting out of sorts. Well, out of sorts for her, saying things like, Mommy lets all the bad men in, and Grandpa told me to do it. Well, she asked Dominator to join her in the nap zone. We assumed she meant the dreamscape.
Okay, go on.
So Dominator followed her in, using the ethical protocol, of course.
Of course.
Well, what she saw in Lexi's mind, in the dreamscape, was horrific. First, Lexi was being tortured sexually and mentally by Dark Cloud. Second, Dominator saw a younger version of Dark Cloud, and it appears he is the one who hurt and took Dominator's daughter Adelaide.
You understand that the dreamscapes are not reality. It sounds as if these images are disturbing, but how can you prove they're real? And how do you know that Dark Cloud is really behind it?
I saw him. I know that it's difficult for me to think rationally about this since my daughter is involved, but you know that Dark Cloud's dream-walking powers are strong. And it's not just what happened to Lexi there. It's about what happened to her when she came back. She was mind-raped.
Yes, I saw this with my own eyes. Lexi is not herself. She's not reading any of her vampire fanfics, and she didn't go to her office job at the car dealership today. She's in Dominator's room resting. We didn't know what else to do with her. Emerson is looking at her now.
I see. I think I remember Lexi now. She's one of Emerson's favorites, as I remember. Mind rape is a serious accusation.
We know this is serious, and we took the time to deliberate it ourselves. Thank you for your full attention to this issue.
Well, breaking the ethical protocol is a serious issue. Tell me more.
Madelyn was sitting on her bed, looking over her clothes. She had decided what outfit she wanted to be buried in. She quickly decided on a black dress, black shoes, and a black jacket. She wrote a note and taped it onto the neatly folded outfit. The note read, "For my funeral."
Good choice. Death really is the only answer. I never said I was going to die now. I just want an outfit picked out for whenever it does happen. But today is the last day of your life. Says you. You must die before you and your family destroy this world. Without you, your twin cannot hurt this world. But if you live, there is every chance that you and your twin will destroy this planet, maybe even the entire universe. Do you remember that night? The one where Matt knocked you out? The very incident that took him away from you? Vaguely. I was knocked out, so... But you do remember it. I can tell. You know when he comes back, the two of you will destroy this world. You don't know that. You're lying. Search your feelings. You know it to be true. You keep trying to contact him. Your parents don't want him in your life. You know that, too. Ever ask yourself why that is? You're lying. Don't quote the Holy Trilogy at me. No, you are the one that always lies. You promised Kristen you would eat. You lied about that. You told your parents you were sick today. You lied about that, too. And if Matt comes back and you are still alive, you both will destroy the world. You know that, too. Stop lying and take responsibility for this. End your life before you and your brother destroy everything you love.
Maddie was distraught. She didn't know how to respond.
This is why you're a bad person. You know what you will do when he comes back, and yet you still refuse to end your life so that others may live. Matt is too far gone to realize this, but you know this for a fact. You are the only person who can stop this madness, and the only way to do it is to end your life. Yet you refuse. You suck. What do you even have to live for? Darian is gone. Your parents are clueless. Just end it, bitch.
Maddie contemplated. Maybe this voice was right. But there was just one problem.
I'm not ready to die.
So, when Dominator and I encountered Lexi originally and she started saying odd things like, "The man in my head told me to do it," and "When I think of you, I touch myself," we knew there might be problems. We tried to converse with her to get more information.
Some really disturbing things came out of her mouth, like, "I'm gonna let him suck on me a while, till the brains are gone."
That Lexi is quite the character. Sometimes she can be a bit overdramatic.
She wasn't doing one of her acting bits, not a character from one of the vampire novels. She said things that would disturb anyone, like, "Puts his cigars out on my feet when I was a baby, then he sucked my toes. Now I can let all the vampires in. I let them suckle at my breast."
Sounds very sexual. She is very into fetishes. Is she going through some sort of foot fetish thing?
At first we thought maybe she was playing a game too, but the way she said it, Daddy says he's going to hurt you if you don't stop. He says go away, give me dahlias and rosewater and we can fall in love. Don't you want me to bring you into the nap zone? I can make you feel so good there. Then we realized she was talking about the dreamscape. She said, in my dreams, I'll dominate you and he can watch from the dark clouds. Come to think of it, do you think when she said dark clouds she was giving us a hint?
You were good to help her. Please, tell me more about what happened.
Dominator, you were there. Why don't you describe your experience?
When I saw Lexi, she looked like the tarot card, 8 of Swords, bound and staked and chained to the ground. There was an old man there she called Grandpa, sucking at her toes. It was part of some perverted fantasy, some nightmarish recollection. I could smell semen and cigarettes, burned flesh and rotten fish. Nightmare. It was horrific. It was so vivid I got sick as soon as we came out.
And you also said you saw the dark cloud was the one who hurt Adelaide. You see, Nightmare, Lexi said he can watch from the dark clouds, and Dominator saw him.
You were correct in bringing this to my attention. I like seeing the two of you working nicely together again.
Worse than any milkshake headache, bolts of ice raced along the rivers of Madelyn's brain. When she heard the words inside her head, she knew they weren't hers. But they felt true, and they felt right. She held her hands to her temples, her frosty hands trying to massage the pain away, and maybe send the messages away too. Was this her inner voice guiding her? And then, before she could take a respite, the message continued.
By allowing yourself to live, you will cause the greatest war the universe has ever seen. Stop!
But the voice did not stop, and it began to sound more and more like her own.
I have seen it. You will steal the abilities of others and use those abilities to destroy everything. No.
As Madelyn began to slump back into her bed, she shook her head violently as the new message rang through her mind clearly.
Because families carry with them the burden of past pain and must learn from these trials until all is understood, the following challenges will be placed on those who spring forth through life that is made. Okay, but your words confuse me. What burden did I place on my family? One egg will crack, but then reappear as if it were reborn. Its twin will be scrambled inside its shell, laid in a basket, and end up isolated. I feel isolated. Am I the isolated egg? Am I scrambled? Are my brains scrambled? When a set of twins leaves the nest, one will find a new egg. If the egg is broken, it will cause this egg to rot and attack the others. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So you see, you are rotten. You are no good. It's time to let go. And this will save my family? I'm the rotten one? I'm the rotten one. It's the only thing that will save them.
Terra 1 Madelyn opened her journal and wrote,
Dear family, I hope what I do will remove the family curse. I know you'll all be better off without me. Now the universe will be safe. Love, Maddie. Egg yolk. Bust it. Bust it. It's all yellow and yucky. Bust it. Bust it. It's all funky and mellow. Bust it. Bust it. It's different from the white. Bust it. Bust it. Mix it in with the white toast. Bust it. Bust it. It's different from the white.
Madelyn startled awake, drenched in sweat, heart pounding. What had she been dreaming? She looked around, brushed off the momentary confusion of broken sleep. A whisper. There, what was that? Moments of silence. It had to have been leftovers from the dream, whatever it was. She turned onto her left side, pulled her blanket over her shoulders. Her eyes closed.
You don't deserve them, you know.
Maddie opened her eyes to slits.
What? Denise?
Her voice was thick with sleep and disuse.
How? Why are you...
You'll never be a brother.
Mama?
Maddie opened her eyes completely and looked around in confusion. She peered into the darkened corner of the room when a shape moved just enough for Maddie to notice it.
Dad?
You're such a disappointment, baby. You never lived up to our hopes. How could you?
Anger flashed through Maddie as tears prickled her eyes. Flinging the covers off, she rose, her bare feet digging into the carpet. Cautiously, still uncertain if she was really awake, she approached the shadow.
Who are you? What do you want? You're not my father.
The shadow pulsed, expanding and contracting, before settling into a single shape.
You're right. I'm not Dad.
A car passed outside her window, its beams falling across the face of...
What the hell?
Before her stood a dark, wavering version of herself, grinning maniacally. The last of her sleepiness was burned off by adrenaline, and she took a quick step backwards, bumping into her bed.
They're not coming. Your parents? They won't be here to save you. You're all alone. They're too tired, stressed out. You're not exactly easy on the psyche, you know.
Shadow Maddie smirked.
They wouldn't anyway. You're a burden, a blight on this perfect little family. I mean, look at you.
Shadow Maddie passed a hand across her body.
You're not exactly prom queen material. You're needy. You're dependent. You suck the life out of everything, out of everyone. You take, and you take, and you take. They'd be better off without you, don't you think?
She smiled a knowing smile, but then creased her brow.
But wait, who says they'd be better off? I mean, they're the ones who stop you from having any fun. They're always pushing you harder to learn more, to do more, be better. You'll never be good enough for them. You'll never measure up to your brother. That's not true. My parents love me. My family.
The shadow made a rude noise in his throat, interrupting Maddie.
Shut up, you stupid girl. Can't you see I'm getting a brilliant idea? It'll be so freeing for both of us. Your family is what holds you back. Of course you'll never measure up to Darian, because you're better than him. But they keep holding you to the standards they set for him. They're in your way, girl.
Maddie didn't want to, but she felt anger start to creep up, first from the pit of her stomach, then from her fingers and feet. Her heart began racing, and her breathing became faster and more shallow. Her eyes glistened with the beginning of tears.
No, they're not like that. They love me. They love both of us, all of our family.
Memories came unbidden to Maddie. Her parents smiling at Darian, congratulating Darian, being proud of Darian. Whispers and furtive glances toward Maddie. Pitying hands placed on her shoulder.
They love me.
The tears ran freely now. Her eyes searched her room, now noticing that the shadow was no longer there, if it had ever been. Feeling disconnected, with the pressure building in her chest, Maddie walked from her bedroom to the kitchen. What had just happened? Was she still dreaming? There was a roiling anger still in her heart that she couldn't explain. A cool glass of water later, and the rage was undeniable. She heard whispers again, mocking, jeering, indistinguishable from each other. But the intent was there. Maddie clenched her hands into fists, then released them, then clenched them again. Visions continued to play through her head, memories distorted by anger, paranoia, and the twisting of self-doubt. Her hands continued their pulsing dance as she left the kitchen. Soon she found herself in her parents' room, standing beside her sleeping mother. Her father's snores were loud and steady. Maddie knew that it would take an explosion by his ear to wake him. She looked again at her mother. Andrea's eyes were closed, and a small smile seemed to take years off her lined face.
Probably dreaming of a life without me.
Maddie was startled to realize that the thought was spoken aloud, and with such vitriol. She made the fist again, but this time her hand clenched around something cold and hard, something metal. She looked down, A butcher knife was in her hand, her fingers dripping blood where they gripped part of the blade. Her mother's eyes opened slowly, but focused on Maddie immediately. Maddie felt a smile on her face at her mother's confusion. Andrea's lips began to form a question, but her eyes wandered down to Maddie's bloody hand, and the knife she held there. She stiffened, but her eyes returned to her daughter's.
Baby? Maddie? Madelyn?
The voices were loud in Maddie's thoughts. She could see her mother's lips moving, but she couldn't hear her. The fury was still there, still gripping her heart and pounding in her ears. Her vision blurred at the edges, but came into sharp focus on the rapid pulse in her mother's throat. Something pulled in the back of Maddie's mind. She knew there was something wrong, something off, and it was tugging on her memories. Andrea began to sit up, her hands slowly reaching out toward Maddie's.
I love you, baby. Whatever this is, we can deal with it, okay? You're stronger than this, Maddie. Stronger than you know. I love you, baby. I love you, Madelyn.
That phrase continued to echo through Maddie's thoughts, interrupting the cycle of anger and pain and breaking through the red haze in her brain. Maddie blinked and gasped. Her eyes were wide and watering. Her hand closed harder around the knife, and she seemed to notice it for the first time. The whispers got louder, pushed harder, encouraged her to swing, jab, plunge the blade deep into her mother's cold, uncaring heart.
Twist it, pull it out, stab, again and again and again. Ruin the heart, the love that she could never bring herself to give to you. No! This is wrong, I won't do it! My mother loves me, my father, my family.
Maddie railed against the invisible forces, her hands flying to her ears, the knife nicking the skin above her right eye, her chest heaving, her eyes wide and rolling. Maddie brought her hands down to her shoulders, the knife forgotten, but now resting against her own neck.
Just one swift, deep cut. Do it. Bathe her in your blood.
Maddie's eyes sought out her mother's as she fought for control of her thoughts and body. With one last push of her will, she flung the knife away, turned, and ran from her parents' room. Her mother cried out behind her, the sound waking her father. Maddie heard her mother's feet hit the floor, then stumble as she tried to catch up. Unable to speak, Maddie kept running. Her bare feet took her from the house, through the yard, and across her neighbors. She ran and ran, fighting with every step. The thing inside her head kept yelling at her to turn around, to free herself from her overbearing parents, to save herself.
That's exactly what I'm doing, you asshole.
Maddie had considered joining the track and field team when school resumed, and as in all things, she had thrown herself into training. Tonight she was grateful for it. Scenery flew by her as Maddie continued to run, her black hair flying out behind her. The air stung her lungs, and her heart felt like it was going to burst out of her chest. But Maddie didn't care. There was only one thought left in her mind that was her own. Stop herself and save her family. She smelled the water before she saw, or even heard it. She chose the path with the steepest climb, the one she knew would take her to the most beautiful view of the city, if not the state. She stood on the rocks beside the rushing water, looking down into the shadowed depths broken by a churning of foam over rocks far below. Maddie took a deep breath and felt it catch in her throat. She smiled and told herself that the water in her eyes was really mist from the water around her. She stepped closer to the edge of the cliff, over the deep portion of the Potomac River. She closed her eyes and thought of her family, her mother's smile, her father's laugh, her brother's bear hugs, and Max. Oh, Max. He would never know just how much he meant to Maddie. None of them would. She knew this would hurt them, knew they would have questions, knew they would never know or understand her pain, her loss, and her loneliness. They deserved this pain, this not knowing. She wanted to hurt them, wanted them to know what it's like to. Maddie squeezed her eyes tight, blocking out the cacophony of voices for one blissful moment. She braced herself, took a deep breath, and let go. She felt herself falling, 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 Just before her world went black and empty, she heard her mother's voice whisper,
I love you, baby.
November 4th, 1995. I had a dream last night, a dream that I was falling. It really unnerved me, and I don't know why. I mean, we've all had those dreams before, right? But this one was different. Off. When I woke up from it, I felt like there was something missing, something I never knew was there until it wasn't. I don't know. I feel like my soul was split into a million pieces, and now each piece is screaming out at me, trying to tell me something. There's a void. No, that's too simple. Before, my energy was harmonious, but now it's discordant. Well, Jake's gone, missing, but that's not it. And dragons are real. Go figure. I've said my goodbyes to everyone. Darian, Matt, Max, Mom and Dad, and Jaime. She'd be proud of me, I hope. I'm sad that the only thing I have to remember her by, to remember any of them by, is my memory. Well, that and this rage inside of me demanding vengeance. Sometimes I think it'll just bubble right out of me and make me do something I'll regret. Or maybe I won't. I'm not giving up hope on Jake. And if I find someone, anyone, I'm going to hold on tight. Or maybe I should just end it. Maybe that's an easier way to go. I'm going to try to find the academy today. I've gotten pretty successful at aiming my portals. Only once did I land Jake and I in a patch of some weedy stuff. 9 times out of 10 isn't too bad, right? I'll let you know how this one goes. How the fuck am I supposed to do this without Jake? End journal entry. If you or someone you know needs help, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. The call is free and confidential, and there is someone to listen 24/7.
Hey, babe. Looking fine. What's different? Wait. Let me guess. Where's your scar? Did you get it removed?
No, babe. I'm just trying something new. This makeup chick came to the door, and she gave me free makeover. She did such a good job that I decided to let her go instead of feeding her to the vampires.
Wow, you really did like her. You guys gonna be BFFs or something?
I'm not sure yet. I did place an order with Sassy Lashes with Ash. I suppose I'll follow her in her magenta class dimensions on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. That way I can find her in case I change my mind.
Still, it does look like she gave you a pretty good hookup on nature-inspired products. And you look wicked hot.
Thanks, babe.
That's Sassy Lashes with Ash. Look it up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can purchase her products from her website, sassylasheswithash.com. Thank you for listening to the 7th episode of Battalion 13 the podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Battalion 13HQ. Email us at b13@battalion13hq.com. Support the show by becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/Battalion13HQ.